Good day, beautiful people. This video is going to be about boundaries and the wonky, wavy elusiveness of boundaries and the strong animalistic urge for boundaries as well. And so I'm Apocalypta here on Antidote Aesthetic channel. I am an existential kink rapid shadow integration coach and a Kundalini Gold Reiki master. And the energy that I call upon in these videos is simply Reiki, oneness energy, life force, unbiased, all loving energy. If you want to get into the Kundalini energies with me, you gotta sign up for Mission. All the information is down below. Our next round live group training starts February 8th, so you gotta sign up a bit before then. And again, all that info is in the description box. And I'm available by email, which is also there if you have questions or you want to chat a bit first. There's also a self-paced option. For today, we're calling on the oneness energy Reiki to help us to feel really comfortable, or even more comfortable, or a little bit more comfortable, depending where you're at, with not only the subject of boundaries, but the actual sensational feeling of being boundaried, which is different than being guarded. But it is the energy of being protected, where things just don't have the same access to messing with you, throwing you off center. This being boundaried is being centered. They're one and the same because they require the same thing of you and your play with energy and the layers of your being. So if you're open to receiving, if you are a big fuck yes for this conversation, go ahead and put it in the comments. Maybe leave me a butterfly emoji. I'm seeing that in my mind's eye, so I'm inviting it. You might hear my kids singing in the tub right in the hall there. Or coughing. Starting at the heart. Just this loving, I see you energy. I am you energy, and understanding between us as humans that we are all facing this challenge in ourselves, with ourselves, and together to unlearn toxic formulations around boundaries, things that keep actually parts of us locked up, parts of ourselves away from each other and thereby in conflict. This push-pull competitive energy of boundaries, of win-lose boundaries. We're recycling any and all of that willing to surface. Letting it all come up if you can. This idea of boundaries as requiring force or like being constantly on, like a guard. We don't want you to be exhausted that way. I don't want to be exhausted that way. And we don't need to be. Because being boundaried, and the way we're speaking to it and living it, is staying in your own lane and creating impact and relatedness through that. And by your own lane, I really mean your own bubble. That your energy bubble that I'm stroking here and now, so beautiful. This is your domain. And this is your boundary. This energy bubble is your realm of control. And by that I mean it's the only place that you have any semblance of control. Because in it, you are in charge when you reclaim that power for yourself, which is accessible to you, and all you require is yourself and adjustments in perception and willingness to experience, which does require often, in most cases, some shadow integration because we've been so conditioned. But it's in this space of your own energy bubble where you can take full responsibility for your experience, and that is the best protection. That is your boundary, where you're no longer allowing interference with that power, and where it becomes easier and easier, smoother and smoother to be continuously giving yourself that permission. What a squeaky chair. And I love that squeak. It's kind of this haunted sound of like, yeah, there is hauntedness. There is lingering conditioning and beliefs, inheritances through our lineages of what it means to be protected, what it means to be boundaried, and that we have to fight for it. That there is required conflict, pushing, rallying against something external. But I invite you, any of that you feel, that you sense in your field, in your experiencing, in your habits, be pushing like inwards. Like I'm picturing a kid pushing off the side of a pool. If you're going to push off the external world, it's like you're pushing and to glide through the waters of your own experiencing towards center. In the center, that's your home base. That is your anchor point to really owning this domain, your domain. Yeah, how relieving is that? And you will find your inner child along the way there. And they are an incredible ally. Their reactions and your more impulsive, animalistic reactions are incredible indicators of when your natural boundary is being crossed, whether it's being crossed by something external or whether you are the one crossing the boundary, whether you're allowing the energy leak of not taking full responsibility for your own experiencing. That is a betrayal of your own power, because your power requires you to be in full inhabiting of your energy domain, which is fully responsible for the experience of being this spirit soul in a flesh suit with a brain that is continuously moving charge through the body and through the energy bubble. And so boundaries, really authentic, fully empowered boundaries that are win-win. I want that for you and for your people. May the gold energy of that permission reach you here and now, or whenever it is best for your own true life path. But to really own the win-win. Potentiality, but also natural capacity. It is within your reach. And by that I mean it's literally within an arm's length. That is your zone of opportunity. And it may very well be haunted with voices suggesting otherwise. I assume if you're attracted to me and you resonate with me, then you are interested in dissolving the influence of those voices. And it's a process of noticing, having compassion for yourself, for why they're in your field. That our souls take on karmic inheritance because we have incredible confidence that we are, in fact, strong enough to remember our power in a lifetime. Just supporting any movement on that trajectory that we can here and now. Feeling so much energy flowing through my hands. For you, to you, with you, in that momentum of just obliterating, dissolving, melting, evaporating the density, the heaviness, the suffering of being disconnected from our authentic boundary of our own realm of power, our domain of healthy, active experiencing that provides, contributes, win-win, internally and externally. Not that the external always immediately can recognize that or celebrate it, but you and we feel it as the parts come into coherence because they feel safe and heard and held in this concept and the embodiment of the concept of this energy bubble around you being your boundary. And it's stretchable, it's flexible, where you can I'll stretch mine right now to every corner of this room. And I can be that open and even more open. People in mission really like when we practice that, especially after the attunements where we play with that later in the program. They're like, wow, that feels amazing. And it's kind of the opposite. It's definitely the opposite of the way a lot of us have been living, where our energy bubble has been shrunken or even shriveled because there's so many holes poked in it. And that comes from boundary cross. Like literally, if this is simply a bubble, when someone crosses your boundary, pops and like shrivels around you. Never goes away, it's always there, but then you have to inflate it back with your presence and your ownership. And it's not ownership against that other thing, it's just simply, this is where I belong and this is my realm. And then the complications come in is when our bubbles overlap with others. And that's a whole other interesting rabbit hole, let's say, because it's rather endless. But this is the primary step, even for ownership there in the overlapping, is to really claim your presence in your bubble. Things that have helped me with that along the way is learning to narrate sensations and experience, dropping into the kind witness. So relaxing the thinking and figuring and more forceful aspect of the mind, and dropping back into the feeling and sensing mind. I like to think of it as sitting in a throne, witnessing my kingdom. My toenail hurts where I picked the cuticle too much the other night. It's like as soon as I go into relaxing, that called my attention. Where earlier in this recording, I had no connection to that because I'm really present with this, but I asked myself to look into my field and what do I notice? Well, that was a loud voice there. And you can do it too. I'm noticing, whether it's me or you, something in the left hip and even into like the intestines that kind of sit in the abdomen, into the pelvic bowl area there. Just going to pull some energy from that spot. Where it's just relaxing to notice, and there's no right or wrong answer, and it doesn't have to be this exact understanding. You don't have to know the meaning behind everything to narrate it. And often when we intuitively narrate, the meaning reveals itself and it just feels like connection, as opposed to thinking and figuring. It feels relaxed and connection and creates more flow. Sending this energy into the forest to be recycled. That's where I'm directing it. My hands are going that way. I hope this is making sense. And even if it's bumping against ego or processing faculties in the mind, I hope there's been moments in this video of your body like going, oh yeah. Feeling the resonance and the relatedness to, yes, what I'm saying verbally, but also dropping into non-verbally to transmit the energy permission, the energetic permission, that communication of claiming this boundary. And to practice being in your own bubble, you can picture yourself in a disco ball, mirrors up. That's in week 1 of Mission. Fuck Yes Mini Mystery School Kundalini Gold Reiki Training. It's not to reject the rest of the world, but really in a deep, deep, deep acceptance that everything in the external world is simply reflecting us back to ourselves. And so we can take time to go mirrors up and to be with ourselves in that space, to have been receiving the reflections, the mirroring, and the invitations, and then to actually take that time to let it bounce us inwards, the same as the child or the person pushing off the wall in the swimming pool. So it's like the disco ball pushing off the edge to go into our own center, to float around in that space, and to give ourselves a chance to integrate all that the mirroring in the external world has exposed us to of ourselves and our own journey and our own experiencing. And it takes boldness and bravery to sit in that space with ourselves. But if we really care about being boundaried in the highest expression possible, then we must be bold and brave and take deep breaths and sit with ourselves, truly. And I love YouTube as a resource. Pulling myself away from things I was really attached to in the external world, I used YouTube a lot as a companion for transitioning into comfort with myself, with being with myself. And so in that way, I just really bow to this platform in so much gratitude, and I celebrate you being here with this video and whatever companionship you're finding that supports building comfort with the liminal space inside ourselves where all of possibility exists, which is pretty intense, because in the outside world is always pointing us back at that everything out there, the possibility exists within ourselves, and owning that is a big part of being able to own your boundary. Relatedness enables healthy boundaries. Relinquishes the push-pull of the win-lose realities we've been conditioned into. Really liberates us into the win-win that is our natural birthright and beingness. My kid is so chatty in the tub. So cute. Just really channeling this oneness energy here inside the disco ball. This safety, this security, and this freshness too. Because we will come across whatever's stagnant in our field and in our bodies when we take that time with ourselves. And then we plug into the earth, and we plug into source, and we let the energy of that stagnancy is just charge that's been held, and kind of become a dead zone. But energy always wants to move, so as soon as we bring attention to it, it will feel more active. And it's not there to take over. It's there because it wants to be recycled back into full flow. So you can send it into the earth with however your body wants to move, or whatever practices you have for moving energy. Sending your grounding cord all the way into the core heart center of the earth. And likewise, sending your consciousness cord all the way up into source. And you can recycle energy that way too. Give it all back to source. An all loving center of the universe that is infinitely available to exchange energy. And in that, we're infinitely resourced. And in that, we have incredible allies, even in our aloneness, inside our domain, inside our energy bubble. And so all and any stagnancy that you come across, we could use the word trauma, we can use the word blocks, we can use the word shadow. Anything that you come across that has that uncomfortable stagnancy or suffering edge to it, can be quite instantly transmuted into freshness when we feel safe. And so anything that you can do to come into more and more familiarity with sitting inside this boundary with yourself, not to be blocked off or shut off or cut off or shut out or shut up, but to be liberated and empowered through this presence in your own experiencing bubble, and to come into relatedness with all aspects of life through responsibility for your full spectrum experiencing. Remembering that positive feelings and negative feelings are both high sensation. And so it's likely that we will encounter that in sitting with ourselves, one or the other or both. And equally so, it requires that groundedness and that being tapped into source and allowing the energy movement, because we don't want to hoard any of it in our body or our bubbles. When we do, we're more and more likely to stumble and fumble and poke holes in our own bubble and feel shriveled and depleted and exhausted and unable of holding healthy boundaries with others, where our energy is just naturally, when we're present and circulating energy in a healthy, active way, it doesn't take force to hold that boundary or to convince others of our boundary. No force needed. It's a really natural transmission of your yes, yes, yes to inhabiting yourself and your space. So sending full, loving, compassionate, white and gold Reiki energy to any parts of you and to all of you who have perhaps stumbled and fumbled on taking up space and holding space for yourself and claiming this empowered presence that is your natural state. And that the conditioning, cultural conditioning inherited through generations and lifetimes has convinced us otherwise, convinced us to behave otherwise, to fit in, to get along, to be conventionally functional. Sending all of that, or as much as that of that as we can, to be recycled back to source. And I don't know about you, but just feeling this grounded, psychedelic reality of openness and flexibility. Here, I feel it in my mind. I feel present in my lower belly, the center of my energy bubble. That's a really beautiful place to seal this session for today. If you love this conversation, this energy transmission, you would really love Mission, because this is what we're doing. This is what we're practicing. And I'd love to have you there in either the self-paced or the live group program, which starts in a couple weeks. This is the future. That's what I just heard. This is the future. And we need people to embrace it now to help breed permission on Earth. And in my experience, it's the best gift I've given myself, and it's the gift that I give my son and my lover and my people. Every day, through my days, even when I stumble and fumble with it, that is a welcome humanness. And in recalibrating and reconnecting each and every time, I'm in that process of breeding permission that we are full-blown, full-spectrum humans, here to stumble and fumble our way into remembering and reclaiming this power with ourselves, and to coexisting in this win-win experience of power. It feels so good to share that. I hope to see you soon. Thank you.